Hello, Extra Time.
Very important to the league not to get a hype because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read it, just laugh at you.
It's simple enough. They're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credit to the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny then to manage the Irish team.
Delighted now to be speaking to FAI Coaching Education Tutor, former women's national team assistant and interim manager, and also men's under 16 manager Tom O'Connor, who will be leading an FAI web seminar on leadership this Saturday at 11 a.m. Free to access as well, with no registration required. So do get involved. Have a look at that through the back catalogue as well. And there's plenty of upcoming webinars as well if you are indeed interested on working on your coaching in any capacity. Tom, I hope you're keeping well, keeping plenty busy. I suppose let's start off talking about this seminar, and the topic is, as I mentioned, leadership, which it means a lot of different things in different workplaces. And I suppose when we think about it in football, we probably think about more on the pitch leadership. It's a broad enough question to start you off, but what is leadership in coaching?
Well, leadership can be your own mantra, and because you're dealing with teams and you're dealing with squads of players, it's actually, there's a definition. It's inspiring people to, or leading people to reach an objective. So that's what it really is. You're right. It's in every facet of business. CEOs, at the moment, it's the buzzword with politicians. You're showing no leadership, because of the things that are happening. And so it's an important element, and it is an attribute. But what I have done is that I've looked at it and studied it a wee bit and done a small little bit of research and spoke to coaches, head coaches, and people who are involved in the game. And myself, I've been very, very lucky to being able to make contact and speak individually with a lot of the senior international managers. I've only missed out on a couple. Sean Thomas is one I missed out. Alan Kelly Senior, he was only a head coach or a manager for a day. But like to Mick Megan, Liam Dewey, Brian Kerr, Mick McCarthy, Trapattoni, and right up to our present head coach, Stephen Kenny. And I've always asked them, what makes you tick? What makes you a little bit different? And they always tend to come back with they show leadership qualities. And leadership qualities is actually leading, being a role model, but not just talking about being a role model, actually showing signs and showing what a role model is. And it can be down to the most simplest of being on time. Body language, how do you address people, how do you address the squad, presentations that they make, and obviously then team talks, and then a little bit then would come on the pitch, decision making, and decision making would be another big element of it. They have to make decisions, and I was just watching that little series on Ryan Giggs. He got the job at Manchester United for four matches. And he spoke about the difference and what he needed to do. And decision making was big up there. He mentions that he had 7 places and 10 players to go into those 7 places. So he has to make decisions. So it's decision making. You're also, when you go into that leadership role, you're leading staff, and you're also dealing with management above you. And so it encompasses a lot. And another thing about it being a leader is that it's 24/7. It's not part-time. And he also mentioned that Ryan. He mentioned that he came in at 9 o'clock in the morning and he finished at 10 o'clock that night. And I don't think he was expecting that. Gary Neville, who high-profile player, went to managing Valencia, and he actually admits he wasn't up to it because he hadn't done the groundwork. He hadn't worked on the grass. And he fell very, very short. And his honesty, fair play to him. He said, "I wasn't up for it." And he had said he had seen people who were coaches bringing the work home with them. So if you want to be a successful coach and you want to be a successful leader, you have to be obsessed with it, without a shadow of a doubt. And I can sort of convey that to people, and I can tell you from my own experience to be even staying in the game or keeping a level footing. That's what you have to do and be.
And you've been in, as you mentioned, you've been in coaching quite some time now at this stage. Do you think leadership roles have changed or have been defined differently in these last few years? Because there's quite a bit about football 20, 30 years ago that would have changed so rapidly now. Is leadership still the same across the board, do you think?
No, there's a lot in there, but leadership is evolving. It's like coaching. It's like management, and it's evolved over the years. We have great structures now in the country with our underage, national leagues. So when you go in as a coach, you won't be on your own. It's a staff. When I started off, and I've coached and managed at every level. I remember being on the side of a pitch in the Leinster Senior League, and I was the 13th man. I was the linesman. I was a physio. I had a physio bag. We collected the nets after the game. I collected the money off the players, the pay for the referee. So I got a great grounding in it. But when you go into our national setups and the national leagues, there's going to be a squad there. So it's, the management, you won't be on your own, or you shouldn't be on your own. And part of that then would be delegating responsibility to the rest of your staff. And, we see all the top head coaches and they're being successful. But none of them, even the likes of Alex Ferguson, wasn't successful on their own. They had good people in beside him, good coaches, and he delegated the work and he observed and watched. And a thing that's really relevant to me from my own experiences, when I was first coaching, I did, as I'm saying, I did everything myself. But it's the trick to it for me now is it's man management. It's dealing with people. The likes of Brendan Rodgers, he learned at the very early days in his Reading, when he was at Reading, working with the under 8s and 9s, make people feel important. Actually printed across their brow. And anyone that I spoke to, any players who I come in contact with, I always get an opportunity. If I can get a little opportunity to pick their brain, what made him good? What made him different? What was the great in the great coach or the great manager? And they all say, to not mention his coaching ability, to mention how they treated him. And that always sticks with him. How he treated me. He was honest. He told me why he left me out. And they all remember that.
Mm.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. When we look at the elements to these seminars as well, I was reading. It's not just a case of sort of tips and pointers. There's like assignments involved, isn't there, for during the seminar for people that are continuing their professional development for anyone who's in the coaching education course.
Yeah. Our coach education head is Niall O'Regan, and he's absolutely brilliant. He's been a breath of fresh air since he's come in. And again, it was him when we seen things were going to stop, as the man would say. He said, "No, we won't be stopping. We'll be carrying on." So it was his brainchild, and he had asked us all. Now we weren't all. I haven't done too many seminars. Actually, this has been my first one, but I wanted to do it, and it was a great. Because we asked people coming on the coaching courses, get out of your comfort zone. So again, I needed to lead by example, to put that in operation. But the assignment is fairly simple. It's an assignment, and because of the assignment, that's what you mean. If you want to get 3 hours, you have to start to do something for it, and that's Niall's thinking. But it's brilliant. I'll tell you the reason being. It means then you can interact with the people when they send in their little assignment. My assignment is only do a little SWOT analysis on yourself. Think about some of the pointers that I've made during the webinar, and log them down. And you have your strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and you can put it in bulletin points. And I myself personally will give a bit of feedback, like the rest of the coaches. I know Paul Ozo, he was inundated with the little bit of feedback, and he sat down and he had an itinerary on an underage camp, which was brilliant. 3 or 4 days you have to play a match. I think it was Russia. It was a trip to Russia. So the coach had to put everything around that. And I'm sure the rest of the lads, the assignments are, that it's only a document, maybe a PowerPoint with a couple of pages in it at most.
Yeah, but good to see some practical experience all the same of something during these webinars. I would think, just as you mentioned, having to stop given the current situation with COVID, I would think sort of something that'll be concerning a lot of people at the moment is the lack of consistent access to good coaching for the young players. Is there worry that during lockdown there'll be a bit of setback?
I just said to you just before we come on air, I said to you I was just out for a run. So I go out to the bull wall, coming back, and as I'm travelling down along the bull wall, when I played a bit of junior football for the famous Wharf United, we used to train along there on those dark evenings with the street lamps. And lo and behold, there was people there, young kids with their dads, doing little skills in and out of cones.
Right.
And then when I went onto the Alfie Bourne Road, I used to manage Sheriff OEC at one time. And on the pitch where we actually played, there was a couple of with the young kids, and the young kids were doing little skills, and they seemed to have been timing them, So now young children, they pay attention and they know themselves. And I'm sure the parents and coaches and people in their club, will be saying, don't hang up your boots during this time. Get out and practice. And it's what senior professionals do. Practice their technique. If your technique is up to scratch with both left foot, right foot, heading, control, shooting, and you don't need much equipment. And that's what's been proven to me. I think another morning when I was on a run, a lad who I know he had his son running beside him. He was cycling on his bike, and the young lad was running. The young lad was only 12. But I just said, there you go. It's necessity is the mother of invention. Dublin has produced some fantastic players, brilliant players, and it wasn't all produced on the coaching pitch. It was produced playing in the street, and that's what I see a lot of the children do now on the QT.
Oh yeah, hopefully a few of those home skills videos that the FAI have been releasing was that as well. Yeah, because they seem to have gone down very, very well. There seems to be a big reaction to them, which is good to see. I suppose that'll be a relief as well to those, I suppose, in the underage international teams, knowing they're not going to be having to make up for training now, like triple training sessions to get back in terms of match sharpness. In terms of the coaching in this country on a sort of wider scale, I suppose, if you think back to, I think it was just after Euro 2012, particularly we would have seen a lot of the footage from Sky Sports in England who were doing like a deep dive into the number of coaches in England, or like A-level or pro license, I should say, coaches in England compared to other countries. And I know, we're sort of different when you're comparing Spain, Germany and England in terms of professional leagues and professional roles for coaches over here. But we seem to have been making a couple of strides on that, because I think was it last year we had 14 who got on the pro license compared to 55 or 65, I think, since 2009. So we seem to be making a few strides, at least with regards to coaching and the amount of top class coaching here in the country at the moment.
Yeah, well, when I first started out, playing, I played League of Ireland. I played with Pats at a very early age, and I managed Monaghan. But in the interim of playing, you didn't need to have a coaching qualification to be a manager. And a lot of the top, I won't mention their names, but they didn't buy into the coaching lark. They thought because of their experience, but it's part of club licensing that you have these qualifications. And so, as I'm saying to you, in the coach education department, I've been there since 1987. And I remember we started off with 4, travelling around the country. And it was mainly grassroots and parents looking after their son, playing in it, and they just wanted more information. But now we're up, and I can tell you definitely, Declan, from travelling around Europe, we have a brilliant reputation, an absolute brilliant reputation within Europe. I can tell you that. Now our last pro license visit to Neon, the UEFA headquarters. I mean, we sort of like led the way. With obviously we had Damien Duffy, Robbie Keane, Andy Reid, so they're high profile. But on our last A license, UEFA A license, the Greek head of coaching come over to visit to see how we're getting on, to see what we do. We've a great manner and style about it. We were reality based. We've quality players who are used on the courses. Our ETV, who are mainly National League players. You know what I mean? And I've been to Germany, and it was only the participants themselves that were being used. And it didn't look well at all. Our first female B license, and and the women's section has grown enormously. over the last number of years, particularly the last 4 years, because I was involved with the women's senior international team. I scouted every weekend. So I went to Galway, Galway United. So there they are playing, in the home venue, down in Cork. So it's fantastic. But the first female, UEFA sent over a delegation to see how we got on and how we delivered the course, and they were really impressed. And I know on our next course we have the assistant head coach of Korea, Matt Ross. He's an Australian. He's been in Germany. John O'Shea is going to come on. And obviously the last senior players that were on the last course, and they wouldn't come on our courses if they weren't of a very high standard. And we're always kept on our toes. Ruth Doctor, the high performance director, who's over all coach education. He keeps us on our toes, and he makes sure that we're delivering best quality courses that people can attend. And as I'm saying, I'll repeat myself. We have a very, very high reputation among the nations in Europe.
And there's kind of a lot of grumbling about maybe we don't have enough Premier League players, but in terms of the Championship, but
what's the point in grumbling about it?
But the step
I can't hold about it, can I? If they're not playing the Premier, what's the point of me grumbling?
The step up to international football in the Championship, is it easily managed?
Well, I tell you back there when we played in 2002, what's the point of me grumbling? We had lads who were all at the bottom of the Premier League, real scrapping away, Kinse and Matty Holland, and I had Gary Breen who hadn't even got a club. What's the point of me grumbling? So I don't subscribe to that, you just... Whatever it is, whatever I've got, I'll get them together and make the best of them and try and make sure we qualify. Grumbling is not one of the things I do.
You can subscribe to each new episode of the Extratime.ie Sportscast on iTunes. Please give a rating or add a comment there to let us know your views.
I know it's not just about the pro license as well, because there's lots of different pathways when it comes to coaching. And even, I suppose some people still think of a professional coaching role as unattainable unless you are one of the sort of big names you mentioned there, like a former international player or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit about your own pathway into coaching, into professional coaching, and I suppose how you managed to get into your current role?
Whoa, where do you want me to start? Just here at the beginning. No, I was fortunate enough. As I'm saying, as a young boy, I played in the DDSL. I played with a team in Inchicore. We went 12s, 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s, and 15s. We won. In those days, it was the A League, and then I was fortunate. I went to England for a period of about 8 months. Came home, dejected, and I played for St Patrick's Athletic for a short period of time. But I joined the military, and at that particular time there was what would you call it? We had a lot of political unrest. So the military, we were constantly sent, the likes of the border and to do a lot of aid to the civil power, to that curtail that. So I played junior football, but at that particular time then, in the military then, I became an instructor. I went up the ranks quickly because I played and ran the unit team and then our command team, and I played on the Defence Forces team, which is very, very high level. They're now playing in CISM. In other words, World Military Games, and they've done quite well. But I started delving into the coaching then and taking the earlier badges was QR, S&T, and then I went on the PFEI course. I was Noel King was the technical director. Went on, and I think out of 27 there was only 3 got through. I was one of the 3. So Noel King then brought me into Shamrock Rovers as a coach, but I was in charge of the reserve team. We won 2 back-to-back reserve divisions, and in those days, the reserve division was very, very, very high standard. And myself and my cohort Charlie Walker were running it. But during that time, when I was there, I was asked to go in and look after our national academy, and I just came in near the end, where the likes of Roy Keane was on, and then I carried on then with the next course. So I was involved I was coaching on a daily basis, and it's a massive difference when you're doing it every day, when you're not doing it on a Tuesday and Thursday. And in those days, facilities would have been, I remember St Pat's winning the league, and they trained in St Michael's Estate on a tarmac. You know, Johnny Mackey always tells us himself, Noel O'Reilly and Brian would sweep the glass off before they started. And when they were in Headers Cross, they used to have to take the dog droppings off the pitch as well, you know. And so that's, and then I had an opportunity to go to Monaghan, and I ended up as the manager of Monaghan, while still working with we call it FOSS, it's now ETB. So I was working full time, and I also then got an opportunity to work in the coach education department. So I came in full time in that category in 2002. And the reason why I came in is I got an opportunity then to work with some of the international squads. And one of the first teams I worked with Vinnie Butler, with his under 15s, Matt Doherty, just to name one. Then I worked in with Noel O'Reilly. We brought an under 18 squad in 2004 to a place called Viseu in Portugal. And we won that tournament. We played Portugal in the second game, and they were the current under 17s. It was an under 18 squad. The Portuguese were the current under 17 European champions. We scored after 8 minutes. A young lad by the name of Gill, Mark Gill from Derry, scored, and we didn't see the ball for the rest of the period of time, but we won the tournament. And in our squad we had Anthony Gerrard was one of the lads. Connor Salmon played, Andy Keogh, and again just over the years then with courses and involved with international squads. And then lo and behold, I was assistant head coach for four years with the under 16s, 17s. That was with John Marron, and I fell into the job, as in I got head coach. And I remember going into the head of HR, and he says, "You're the new head coach," and I says, "Thanks very much." And I was walking out, he said, "By the way, you have a tournament in May." This was November. I said, "Oh, that's brilliant," I said. And this was the start of the UEFA development tournaments for underage. Under 16s didn't play, they played non-competitive. And I said, "Mike, that's brilliant." I said, who's in the group?" "It's Germany, England and Belgium." And I went, boom. And that's when I knew then. I said, "My God." I said to myself, talking about baptism of fire. And we're playing at home. But I got to organise the venues myself. So the first venue, we were playing Germany in our first match, and I had chosen Shannon Park, St. Kevin's pitch. Yeah. And the reason for that was, with our 16s, we played Wales, and they beat us 1-0. And I always remember once we went to a goal, then we couldn't get back because the pitch was too tight. So I said, I'll use that to my advantage. And lo and behold, we, off a set piece, Derek Daly Derek Daly scored a goal, and we won 1-0. So I said, my God. Our next game then was against Romania. England had pulled out for some reason, and they beat us 1-0. James Talbot was in goal. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. Made a bit of a clanger. And we played him at Whitehall, so we played him on a big pitch. We could be still there today, and we wouldn't have scored. Last game then set up, we're playing Belgium, and we played them up in the Oscar Trainer, and Tillemans played. Rudy Tillemans, who's playing for Leicester at the moment. Yeah, he was our main player, and lo and behold, we beat them 2-0. So we won the tournament again. I know it's on home grounds, under 16. Our high performance director, doesn't really put much emphasis on the winning, rightly so, and everyone played, and everybody you have a structure of that tournament. Everyone has to play a certain amount of time, and that's what we did. The performances were excellent, and then I got an opportunity then to work as an assistant to Sue Ronan with the women's senior team. I was a little bit reluctant, because I'm looking at my pathway, and coaches when they're working, they're always looking, will I go there? Will I go there? You have to be, how do you call it? You have to do a little bit of thinking of, your next move, because your next move could be vital, and you might have to look at things around what might happen. But she told me, listen, we've a friendly international over in America, so we played in San Jose, and it was Mother's Day, and Wambach can come out. But the main thing for me about that particular trip was, I had done me a bit of homework and looked at women's games, and went to women's games, went and looked on games of the USA playing, And I had always said, Jenny Mac, the women are not really great headers of the ball, so put that down. Goalkeepers aren't brilliant, put that down. But Laura and behold, we played the USA. Wambach was like, I mean, she was better than Frank Stapleton. Yeah, absolutely unbelievable, you know. So again, I was taken aback, and I stayed with Sue, and then Colin Bell came in, stayed with Colin, and I got a little go at the interim job to bring the women to Pasadena, playing the Rose Bowl. It was their victory tour.
Yeah.
And it was the first game after they had won the World Cup.
Another baptism of fire really there, because I think people probably misremember that a little bit, because I remember when you got the run just as the manager when Colin left, it was kind of a sudden enough departure. I don't think too many people were expecting it.
No, nobody.
People remember that it would have been Montenegro for the next competitive game, but of course the friendly was before that, and that's yet another baptism of fire. I imagine from your point of view, thinking you're going to look for the job permanently. That was one hell of a game to start off in.
Well, again, you know, I think you started off questioning about leadership, and as I'm saying, the reason why I highlight, you know, my first tournament as under 16, Germany was the first. You know, Germany, it conjures up. I mean, how do I learn my trade? It wasn't only just purely, and I've said it to people, you don't learn your trade just purely on coaching courses. There are steps along the way. It's the time in between. I mean, that's, you know, so I would have watched it. When I was a young boy, I was in Lansdowne Road, Lebarski. I remember going down onto the pitch and looking at him and going, my God. You know, because you can't really see that. You need to go to matches. You need to go and watch the matches to see, because I always thought David Batty was a midget. Excuse me. He's not. He's 5'10" and he's built like a tank. But I didn't know that. I didn't. You know what I mean? So, you know, those that like to sit and watch the matches on the TV, for me, to learn, you know, because you can learn lots and lots from going to the game. But Germany, ever since I watched that game, I'm not a betting man. People say to me, World Cup, who do you think will win it? Well, I was like, Germany. Comes to the top of that, Germany. Just because of the impression that they left on me. So I'm selected, and it was only a 2-day. I'd only got 2-3 days to prepare the squad. That's even to bring them. And it was down Denise O'Sullivan, and Tyler Tolan couldn't. She was after signing for Man City, and she wanted to do our pre-season to be ready. So she thought the game would have interfered with us. So look, we went anyway. So it was 3-0 at half time and 0-0 in the second half. But the experience that the players got from it, you know, again, some of them had experienced it. It was unbelievable, and I brought on a young 17-year-old in the second half, young girl in Cork, Ava O'Mahony. So what an experience he had. So I think the whole group. But the main aim of that particular game was to get ready for the Montenegro game, which was the first qualifier in the for the European competition. That's going to happen in 2022. And looking at how they're faring up and looking at the job that Vera is doing at the moment, I don't want to put the markers on them, but I think they've more than a great chance of qualifying. And I know, you're talking about there's lockdown. I know in behind the scenes, Vera, Rue Doctor, they're actually, and Eileen Gleeson, one of our own who came through our coaching courses, they're getting ready for the games ahead.
Brilliant. And we know, of course, just on the US, we know they can absolutely go on and root teams, as we saw in the last tournament as well. So it was a good thing you managed to keep it down. But
one of the things about them, the one thing I wanted to make sure, and you have to, motivate your players as well. I constantly tell them, because this, on the 2 occasions that I had gone with our women's team, we were there as cannon fodder. Yeah. And don't upset the boat. But I said, no, we're not here for cannon fodder. You have to try. Look, in my head, I knew that they'll win the game. If we get a draw over it, there'll be a statue made to me in out in Abbottstown. But it was, no, we're not here for that. Have a bit of pride in yourselves. But they did, because we were talking about leadership. Some of the leaders on the pitch are exceptional. Niamh Fahy, she just carries on. She doesn't say 3 words, and she's been brilliant. Louise Quinn, after a goal, and Carrie Lloyd scored a third goal, a header. Oh my God! Mick McCarthy spoke to me when I came back, and he said, "I'd have been proud of that goal." Yeah. And what do you call it? Louise when we conceded, she brought the group in, herself and Katie McCabe, and they went through, as leaders do, and they were fantastic. But it was a great experience. Wouldn't have missed it. When I was interviewed by RTE, they said, "How did you feel?" And again, I've experienced this sleepless nights coming up to any match, in any camp. I'd be tossing and turning, thinking about this, thinking about that. It's never ending. And I remember speaking to John Wilkes, who's an institution of football. And the reason why I mentioned John Wilkes as well, because the amateur game is very, very strong in the country. And it's probably an area that, we need to, encapsulate more to bring them and get their managers and their coaches qualified. For some reason, I don't know why, but it would really enhance the players, would really enhance their leagues. And we do have a junior international squad, But John Wilkes, I asked John, because when I was a young, as I said, when I was a young lad under 11, he's been with Cherry Orchard since then. And he said to me, "Don't mind me asking you, John, do you go to sleep at night?" And he said, "No." And thanks be to God for that.
Well, look, Tom, thanks so much for giving us your time. I suppose I'll leave you one more question in terms of the league, because you're saying you're already having sleepless enough nights, and here was me thinking sort of coaching always looks much more of an enjoyable gig than managing. With that in mind, then, have you any desire to return to club management? I suppose, knowing League of Ireland could tempt you away, because your last experience, I suppose, have been with international management in some capacity. But would club management be an option at some point again, do you think?
Oh, well, you see, as I was saying to you about the plan, when we started off with the European, when we started, Colin was sort of involved, and he said himself, and we worked well together. And he's an excellent coach, and because of being a head coach, there was always this maybe fear of your assistant, but he knew early days that he didn't have nothing to worry about in that regard. I was there to help him. I was there to throw in a bit of advice when he was picking players. I gave my opinion, and I gave an honest opinion and stuff like that. But the plan was to finish off for myself on my career pathway, to finish off in 2021 at the European Championship as the assistant head coach, and then bow out and just go in then to coach education, and to really devote myself into that, to become a real top tutor. And the reason why I say that is because at that particular stage, I feel my experiences would count, and I can stand in front of a group, no matter who they are, and give a good account of myself, having experienced male, female, underage, National League, Leinster Senior League, AUL. I didn't have a problem. So that, unfortunately, is not going to happen. The main reason why I go out walking and jogging is to clear my head and do a little bit of thinking. And I think over the last couple of days, I said, Janie Mac, if something did come up, you might get one more gig out of me. So dependent on I don't think I'd be chasing after anything. But if something did come up, like an academy, I'm also adapted, I do believe, at scouting. Would have capped Declan Rice, was involved with Jack Grealish, Reno Sullivan. I have no problem, and also with the senior women's team, I've brought players in who so I think I have an eye for a player, so I'd be good at that, or I feel I'd be competent at that, and I enjoy it. I enjoy going to games. The reason being, seeing people, meeting people, and there are people who come on the courses. So I go to Cork, I go to Galway, I go to Donegal, and when I was the head coach in the 16s, if I got a call, someone telling me there's a player to go and look at. So there's a number of positions that I would consider. Never say never, as the person says. But at present, I'm just getting ready for where we've a pro license about to start. We've a big license starting in August. If people are interested in, get on the webinar or get on the website and throw your name into the hat. So that's my future.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat to us anyway. And look, the very best of luck with your seminar tomorrow.
Thanks very much, Declan. God bless. And can I just say to everybody, if you're listening in, and this was a mantra one of my coaches used to say, is we're going out. We're all in this together. and hopefully we'll see people in the near future out in the training pitch. Thanks very much.